Thank you for joining me, everyone. So I'm getting an email from the Elizabeth Warren campaign. She's raising money on the premise that she's bitching about the Paul Manafort verdict. It's not big enough. It's unjust because he's not being put away for life. Maybe solitary confinement isn't enough for her. Perhaps she thinks he should hang in a dungeon or something. And her complaint is based on her assumption that because other people are incarcerated longer for lesser crimes, with the assumption that the reason they're incarcerated longer is because they're either poor or because they're not white. And, first of all, I would add a third category to this if you really want to get technical. If you want, let's assume for the sake of conversation that she might be right, that there are two levels of justice. On the one hand, you have poor people, people of color, who don't have the ability to defend themselves, and because of prejudice, they end up serving longer sentences. There's some truth to that. Then you have people like Paul Manafort, who's white and who's privileged, and according to her logic, and therefore has a lighter sentence. I might add a third category, and that is that if you're Hillary Clinton or James Comey or some of these corrupt FBI agents or Loretta Lynch, or maybe we go back to the Clinton administration with all his crooks, Sandy Berger, National Security Advisor, who was caught stuffing classified information into his pants. He got a slap on the wrist, a little fine. Then you even have a third category, which is that if you're a white liberal Democrat, then you don't even get charged, let alone have to do less time. It's very rare. I mean, I remember the governor of New Jersey, John Corzine, big liberal left-wing donor, multi-billionaire, who was involved in some kind of a fraud that involved, I don't know, $500 million disappearing. Nothing happened. Mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio. His wife was put in charge of some kind of a budget. I only saw this in passing. With $125 million in city funds. The money has disappeared. No one knows where it is. No investigation. Nothing said. You see, we do maybe have a three-tiered system. If you're a liberal and if you kowtow to the left or you're a tool of the left, like the Clintons, who were the most corrupt public officials of the late part of the 20th, early 21st century, then you get to operate one step ahead of the law and you get a major pass. Never mind that she had top secret emails on her public server that, according to her own people, there were several attempts to hack by foreign powers. But did those information end up in the hands of our enemies? Maybe costing lives? We don't know. A crime that anyone else would have gone to prison for a long time. But because it's Hillary Clinton, nothing is done. So, yeah, we have a three-tiered system. How's that? Now, as far as Paul Manafort's concerned, he committed some crimes, but I think it's interesting that he's charged with crimes that he committed many, many years ago, and they're the kinds of crimes that are committed by a lot of people in that particular business. I'm not bringing this up to apologize or excuse. I'm simply pointing out that he was singled out for one reason and one reason only, and that's because he was involved with President Trump. And just like every other person involved with President Trump, including his three adult children, and his son-in-law, they're all having to undergo a colonoscopic examination under the microscope, where everything they did is going to be looked at in the classic way that one would expect in a Stalin-like administration. You have like a Gestapo looking into everything you ever did. And so Manafort was caught up in it. He's almost 70 years old. He's going to die in prison unless President Trump pardons him, which I think he should, once Mueller finishes. And I don't think Mueller, by the way, is going to finish. And he's going to be there every single day that Donald Trump's in office. because that's his job, to bedevil Trump and to try to hamstring the administration from functioning like a normal administration, implementing its own agenda that it was elected to implement. You know, I doubt if he's going anywhere. The guy's a dirty cop, in my opinion. You know, we could take a look at his record at the Boston District Attorney, where 3 innocent men went to prison, two of whom died in prison under Mueller's watch because he needed a conviction. Or we could take a look at his tenure at the FBI and how the Boston bombing was covered up, and several other things. He's a fixer. He's an insider, and now he's doing a hack job on this president. And it's a disgrace. It's dangerous to our democratic way of life, to our republic, to have this happen, but everyone's afraid to touch him. So he'll be there. I suppose all you can do is isolate him like you would isolate a cancer in a body. You know, try to put coating around it so it's contained and eventually it withers away. They've got nothing on Trump. You know, the likelihood of them having any evidence that he was colluding with Russia, that's ridiculous. It's a classic case of projection, because it was really Hillary who was colluding with Russia in this phony dossier. And besides, the whole thing was thrown out, and he was exonerated by the testimony of Michael Cohen, whom they've kept out of prison just so he can embarrass the president, and who said that he had no evidence that Trump had colluded with Russia. He had never been to Prague, which throws out the phony dossier theory, and that there was no obstruction of justice. So the whole thing is dead, but they're going to keep running it, going to keep on that treadmill at least through the next election. And Elizabeth Warren, by complaining that poor Paul Manafort didn't get enough time, that's a disgrace. And if she's concerned about justice with regard to someone put in prison for, you know, having a nickel bag or something like that, where the hell has she been? She's been in the Senate now for 7 or 8 years. Has she done a goddamn thing about it? I mean, those powers were put in place by Clinton back in the 90s. Has any of these left-wing hypocrites done anything about that other than use it as a political football? That's what they always do anyways. That's why they use black people. You know, they don't care about someone's success or someone's prosperity. They're interested in fanning the flames of hate and racism so they can get elected and they can enhance their power. So I just wanted to comment on Elizabeth Warren's email fundraiser saying we should send her money because she's upset that Manafort isn't being hung up by his toenails and he hasn't been sentenced longer. What a disgusting, vicious, mean-spirited person she is. Anyway, thanks for watching.